Moments after this crowd learned about the death of Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, they erupted in cheers. There were tears of joy. There were people hugging each other, saying that this is the very moment they've been waiting for 47 years. We're shown photos of the people that were allegedly killed by the regime. There were people here holding those photos and saying that this day is for them. One name that has come out time and again out of people's mouths here in Los Angeles is Reza Pahlavi. He is the son of the Shah, what they call the Crown Prince of Iran. These people here want to see Pahlavi back to Iran to take power and lead a temporary government and then hold a referendum in Iran for how it wants to move forward. They see this as a very important, a pivotal moment for Iran, hence the celebration. Now, there is a variety of opinions here. Some people calling for making Iran great again. Some people with photos of Pahlavi in these protests. Some of it, though, are people who just say they are thankful for President Trump for leading these strikes in Iran, saying that this is what Iran needed for a change, for a new revolution in Iran.
Everybody is saying this is the only time in the last 47 years where we actually have an opportunity to overthrow the Iranian government.
Now we're seeing a lot of Trump flags, President Trump being thanked by name here in this crowd, but some people are even Democratic voters who are praising the president, saying that they were disappointed with how Democrats had handled the relations with Iran in the past, and that this is the one opportunity that this generation will get for a regime change.
همینجا خیلی صریح و شفاف به ترامپ و نتانیاهو و عوامل و ایادی آنها میگویم، دوباره تأکید میکنم، هم به این دو جانی کثیف و هم به همه عوامل آنها میگویم، شما پا روی خط قرمز ما گذاشته اید و باید هزینه آن را بدهید. چنان ضربات هولناکی به شما بزنیم که خودتان به التماس کردن بیفتید. خواهید دید که این رؤیا پردازی های خیالی شما چند روز بیشتر دوام نخواهد داشت.
Iran's supreme leader is dead. You may think this is a big deal or that it even means regime change is happening, but it's actually not as big a deal as you may be led to believe by the media. Of course, for Iranians who've suffered and hate the supreme leader, it is a big deal to them, and I'm not here to take that away. But in terms of the grander scheme of regime change possibilities in Iran, it's really not that big a deal. It's important to understand that Iran is unlike Saddam's Iraq, Assad's Syria, or Gaddafi's Libya. Those states were very much hollowed out and reliant on the figure of the leader. Assad's Syria probably the least. Maybe Libya and Iraq are better examples, but nonetheless, in these other regional dictatorships, you find that there really isn't a state, there are no structures, there's just one personality, and it doesn't start out that way. These people slowly hollow out the state, they get rid of competition, they get rid of processes and institutions, until eventually after 10, 20, 30, 40 years, all that's left is just the person, and when you get rid of the person, there's nothing left of the government. Iran is quite different than that. Iran is not like those states. It is not a cult of personality in the way that North Korea or Iraq were, and they have prepared for this moment. They've already had a transfer of power. They went from Khomeini to Khamenei. I know the names are so similar, people think that they're one and the same. They've already had this transfer of power situation happen before, and power was already divvied up. The supreme leader already knew he was going to die probably, if not of old age, in these wars. So the chain of command was already set into play. And if it was so meaningful as people make it to be, then we would have already seen some major change or shakeup in Iran, and we didn't. I think they already knew this was going to happen, more or less, and they planned accordingly. So in terms of what the path forward is for change in Iran, it's not really clear. Without boots on the ground, I don't really see anything major happening, but we'll just have to sit tight and wait the next few days and see what happens.
Death tolls are climbing in countries across the Middle East. So here's where we stand roughly 36 hours in from most to least. Iran, 201 killed and 750 injured. Israel, 9 killed, 121 injured. UAE, 3 killed, 58 injured. The United States, 3 killed, 5 injured. Iraq, 2 killed, 5 injured. Kuwait, 1 killed, 32 injured. Qatar, 16 injured. Oman, 5 injured. Bahrain, 4 injured. And Saudi Arabia and Jordan, they have 0 deaths or injuries reported. Now, this, of course, is a rapidly developing situation, so this is subject to change. I'll make an update when we have.
So Iran has already replaced the fallen Ayatollah Khamenei with this guy, Ayatollah Al-Reza Arafi, a guy who is a theologian in Shia Islam. He is a hardliner, 8 out of 10 on the hardline ranking, which would make him slightly more towards the right in hardline IRGC, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, than his predecessor. Now, he is only the temporary head, and he is wearing the white turban instead of the black one, which means he is not a self-recognized descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But he is nonetheless in Shia Islam considered very high-level scholar, which is called a mujtahid, so he can issue fatwas or religious rulings. He is the temporary guy in charge as of right now, but the Council of Experts, other Ayatollahs, will be electing a new Ayatollah soon. It remains to be seen whether or not this guy will become the Ayatollah full-time, or he will just stay as a temporary guy and then stand down for the new guy, probably within the next couple of days.
I have a genuine question for the Iranians out there who really want the United States and Israel to bomb Iran to bring it freedom and democracy. My sense is that most of you are Reza Pahlavi's supporters. That's just the general trend that I'm seeing. And you seem to think that the United States is going to install Pahlavi as the transition leader or as the king, depending on who we're talking to. And I genuinely want to know what makes you think that if the United States gets involved in that way, that Reza Pahlavi would be their darling. I don't know if you realize this, but the Mujahideen Khalq has been organizing very effectively outside of Iran for decades among European and American politicians. I don't know if you remember Howard Dean, Hillary Clinton's running mate way back in the day. He was a lobbyist for the Mujahideen. Trump himself had like the luminaries in his administration, Mike Pompeo, Rudy Giuliani, John Bolton. These people were either headlining Mujahideen conferences, or they were keynote speakers, or they were like lobbyists for these people. If the US gets involved, it's way more likely that they're going to put Mujahideen in power rather than Reza Pahlavi. I mean, that's like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but really like all signs point to it being Mujahideen that are really their first in line if they were to have their way. So I just really want to know, like, this isn't even about him. If you want to come on here and start insulting me and my mother and all the, generations that came before me because I'm asking this question, fine, do that if it makes you feel better. But this is a real question. I really want to know. This isn't even about him. What makes you think he is their buddy? Even before the Munich conference, where he kind of was embarrassed with the Lindsey Graham moment up there, I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that he and the United States government are like buddy-buddy. I'm really curious. What makes you think that?
Okay, so as an Iranian, I just have to say this. Reza Pahlavi and Trump are not going to liberate us. What happened the last time the United States intervened to do regime change in Iran? Oh yeah, they ended democracy and installed an authoritarian government. And what followed were such severe levels of corruption, political repression, and inequality that it led to the 1979 revolution. That was under the Pahlavi regime, the last Shah of Iran, that we're now romanticizing as this great and wonderful time in Iran that we should go back to, using the exiled crown prince who's been living in LA for the past 50 years in the lap of luxury off of the ill-gotten gains that his family stole from the Iranian people. And how are we going to get there? We're going to ask Trump to attack the Iranian regime on our behalf? Because why? He, out of the goodness of his heart, or because he loves freedom so much? No, if he intervened, it would be to take our oil and install a puppet government in Iran that's not accountable to the Iranian people, but to the US and Israel, right? That's why Netanyahu and his terrorist government are over the moon at this prospect, because Reza Pahlavi is pro-Israel. And so now we're talking about what benefits people outside of Iran, not what benefits people inside of Iran. And just as much as anybody else, I want the regime gone in Iran. I was born there. I haven't been able to go back for 20 years. I'd love nothing more than to be able to go back, to not have to wear a hijab, and to be free. We all want the same thing, but this is just replacing one authoritarian with another, and just a classic case of out of the pan into the fire. This is not the solution.
Iranians in Iran want the war, they want a regime change, and they want America to install Reza Pahlavi. So if you're an Iranian who lives abroad, especially if you have a platform, your responsibility is to be a sounding board for their voices, say what they're saying, say Javid Shah, long live the king. That's what they're telling me, and I don't agree with it. It really comes from an Iranian way of thinking about things, and believe me, I love thinking about things as an Iranian, but this is one of those places where I think the Western individualist mindset is better. I'm my own person. I'm not obligated to say what the people in Iran are saying. We're not even sure what they're saying because there's no polling. It's not a free country. There's no Pew polls. So we don't even know really what people in the country want on an individual basis. And even still, even if you could show me a poll that was somehow done in a fair and free way and it showed that 99.99% of people supported the regime change war from inside Iran, I would still disagree with them because they're not my God. They're not my guidance. They're not my guiding light. They're not a prophet. They're just people. In 1979, the vast majority of Iranians wanted Khamenei to take power. They voted in that referendum. They showed up in the crowds by their millions for years. If I was alive then, would you tell me, hey, Mohammed, the people in Iran want Khomeini, you should support them, you should say long live Khomeini because the people in Iran are saying that? No, that makes no sense. You should say what's true, what's correct. It's possible for people to be wrong. It's possible for some members of a nation or even all members of a nation to be wrong. Imagine if you were a German American living in the 1940s opposing Hitler and Nazism, and another German American says the people in Germany want Hitler, support the people in Germany. That's not to say Reza Pahlavi is Hitler. Far from it. That's not the point of the analogy. The point is that just because the majority wants something doesn't mean they're right. The majority of Americans voted for Trump 2 or 3 times. I mean, what does that mean? So who cares if the majority want it? Even if, which remains to be seen, by the way. But even if the majority of Iranians raised their flag and said, bomb us to smithereens, that doesn't mean I have to support it. I have a brain and I'll continue to use it.
I've made this video as an update summary of the current situation in Syria, what's ongoing, what people are saying, what people think. And let me know what you think down in the comments.